let's go to the devices. Okay, first one, allegory. Write this down. Poetic device, allegory. What is an allegory? It is a story, poem, or other written work that can be interpreted to have a secondary meaning. So it can be, say, a story about the friendship between, um, say, have you seen Madagascar, the
Yeah.
movie? Okay, there's a lion whose best friend is a zebra, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the wild, they'll eat each other, but in that story, they are best friends. So in the movie, they are best friends and whatever. But what is the other message that they're trying to say? They're trying to say that people from any backgrounds and from any inclinations can get together and like each other. Right? A
Yeah.
vegetarian and a non-vegetarian can be best friends. Simple, lion and zebra. Okay, just look at it very basically. Right? Uh, One is supposed to be the on the top of the food chain, and one is just below it. Okay, but they don't treat each other as demeaning or as superior in any way. They're always equal to each other. Okay, so and even if you see the people voicing them, now the guy who voices zebras is Chris. That zebra is Chris Rock. He's a black guy. Okay, and the guy who voices the voice of the lion in Madagascar is a white guy. Okay, so through that also they want to show people of different races can live together peacefully and have fun. Everything can be calm. You don't have to fight all the time. So that is in an allegory. Okay, and that is something as an example of an allegory. If you see Aesop's fables, the ant and the grasshopper, just look at the name only. You can understand it's going to be a story about an ant and a grasshopper, but it's going to mean or be about something completely different, about two different types of humans helping each other out. Okay, cooperation. Got it. Are we clear with what an allegory is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know any allegories? I just gave you the example of something like a Madagascar because I'm sure you've seen it and it's very easy to explain it through that. But do you you've studied poems in school? Have you seen any poem which is an allegory, which has an allegory?
I don't think so.
There will be poems. Have a look after today's session. Just go through your poems once. It's not like you have to analyze the poem. Just read the poem and see is this guy saying something and meaning something else. Okay.
Which poem?
Any the ones you've done at school. You have that thing now, selected works. You have part of your syllabus, right? Analyzing poems.
Yeah, but that one I think we haven't started on it yet.
Ah,
Like,
so you don't have to start. You can do it. No, your teacher doesn't have to tell you everything. I'm telling you
yes.
the techniques. So you can look through a couple of poems and see if any of them have an addict.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can
that
do.
you learned it today, right? So just have a look at a couple of poems and see if you're being able to identify. Understand, Shiraz, if you get all this now, you will not have to memorize.
Oh, yeah.
Understand? That is the advantage of English. If you can understand what this allegory is, once you understand it, you never have to memorize its definition or anything. And forever throughout your life, you'll be able to identify it. So self identification is what I want you to get to. I'm there if you can't understand. I'm explaining to you what it is. No, I've told you what it is. I've explained what they are trying to tell you here. All you need to do is look for it. If you can identify it on your own in a poem, means you're done. You know what allegories are. Now, any question in English that ever comes based on this, you'll be able to answer. Simple. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Alliteration. I think this you're more familiar with. It is a repetition of a sound or a letter at the beginning of multiple words. So we've seen alliteration used in speeches as well, right? It is a device used in speeches as well when we did types of speeches, if you recall. Okay. So once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Okay, so W and W weak and weary. Okay. Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven. Poe uses alliteration with the WH sound at the beginning of multiple words. The repetition here mimics the sound of the wind, something you might hear on a dreary night. You're seeing how he has connected Edgar Allan Poe. Like he's listening to the wind. So the syllable he can hear is okay. while he's sitting down. And when he's writing his poems, he wants that sound to go to the user, to go to the reader who is going to read that poem later. So he uses alliteration to put that sound in and emphasize on that sound to make you realize what kind of ambience he was in while he was writing the poem. You can even go deeper. Okay, Shiraz, poems are very, very analytical. Okay. The repetition here, okay. Also, it sounds soothing. Okay. Something that's interrupted in the next couple of lines by a different sound. Okay. So that we don't know because uh, we haven't read that part of the poem. Just as Poe interrupts his soothing, round vowel sounds with repetition of the P sound in suddenly tapping. Okay. All right. This part is not given in the screen. So let it be. Okay. So write out what an alliteration is. Just write the definition down.
Okay.
All right. Allusion. Next. We've read about this also in types of speech. It's an indirect way of referencing something. The Cunninghams are country folks, farmers, and the crash hit them the hardest. This is To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay? So, what crash? The market crash. So, Lee isn't speaking of a literal crash. That's the first thing I observed. Right. The moment I read the line, I told you, what are they talking about? Market crash. Right. So, I observed the allusion immediately. The moment I read it. You need to be able to do that. Okay.
Okay.
So basically you're referencing something indirectly. So if I say, um, suppose you have a new hairstyle, okay, and if I tell you, oh Shiraz, these new hairstyles are, very trendy. Okay, the new hairstyle you have is very trendy. Uh, you're spending too much time on TV nowadays, huh? So what am I actually trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that you're not studying. You're spending time on other activities, but I'm telling it to you through complimenting your hairstyle and telling that it's modern. Getting it? So, indirect way of saying something. Okay. Uh, I don't know how better. Okay, let's see. Lee isn't speaking of a literal crash. He's referencing to the stock market crash of the late 20s, which left many people without money. To Kill a Mockingbird's narrator references the stock market crash in a way that's appropriate for her text, which readers can gather from the novel's settings. Using this allusion allows Lee to do some quick scene setting. Not only does it establish the novel, what time period the novel is in, but it also shows that she herself is a clear part of that setting. She speaks to the audience in a way that a child of that era would speak, giving the story a greater sense of realism. That's why this book, To Kill a Mockingbird, is a recommended book everywhere around the globe for everything, right?
Why is it so famous?
It's really famous because the way the emotions have been expressed by this author, it's about living in a depression. Okay, so it's sad times. So it's evoking that. It evokes a sense of empathy in the reader. Also, very lots of morals are there. Lots. Okay, they are telling a lot of things. This author is telling, and uh, there's nothing fake about it. It's about a real experience that she's going through and her expressions of that experience. For all SAT, ACT exams and all that, this is one of the books that you're suggested to read. In your IB syllabus, To Kill a Mockingbird is not there, no?
Yeah, I think it's not there in the syllabus.
So this is something, it's a book that I would recommend that you get a hold of and read just for casual reading, just
Okay.
for you to read. Okay. So like Harry Potter, so similarly, Killing To Kill a Mockingbird, same thing. It's a wonderful book, and
Why do you want to
some
kill the bird?
I
Why
didn't
do
get
you
you.
Why do you want to kill the mockingbird?
That's a figure of speech. He's not actually killing the mockingbird. Okay. So who is the mockingbird here? She is the mockingbird.
Okay.
It's a figure of speech. Okay. All right. Have you written down what allusion is?
Yeah, reference to something indirectly, right?
Correct. Yes. Okay. Apostrophe. An apostrophe is a poetic device where the writer addresses a person or a thing that isn't present with an exclamation. Apostrophe. Actually. Oh, stranger of the future. So it's a random person in the future, right?
Yeah.
So the person doesn't know anybody, like in the future. Oh, inconceivable being. Again, like I can't even think of what you may be. Okay, I'm already talking to you. Whatever the shape of your house, no matter how strange and colorless the clothes you may wear, I bet nobody there likes a wet dog either. I bet everybody in your pub, even the children, pushes her away. So he's telling, I don't like, there are certain things which doesn't matter the time period, people will not like. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's talking to this imaginative, futuristic person, and he's telling that even a guy 200 years later, no matter how much we evolve or whatever, uh, he's also going to have the same human instincts, so as to speak. So, though we know from the title that Collins is addressing a stranger from the future, in the final stanza of the poem, he addresses the stranger directly. Apostrophe was particularly common in older forms of poetry, going all the way back to ancient Greece. Many works of Greek literature begin with an invocation of the muses, typically by saying something like "Sing, sing in me, O muse." Because the narrator of Collins' poem is calling out to someone in the future, he mimics the language of the past and situates his poem in a larger context. Just write out what apostrophe use is, and write this example as well. Stories, novels, and all. I didn't do all this. I didn't go into another document because you understand stories and novels and stuff. Okay, it's easier to analyze. Poems, I'm giving you all this because it's a bit more difficult to identify, especially at your age. I remember I was lost when I was at your age. I needed my teacher to explain every line of the poem in detail, and then I used to memorize that and go for the exam, and whatever questions used to come, just to go from the memory. Today, I can read a poem and do all that. So I get the difficulties involved in poetry. That's why I'm giving you these notes, because you will get in HL, you will get one poem to analyze. So it's going to be a critical part of the paper, so as to speak.
So an apostrophe is a poetic.
Apostrophe is when you use something like an exclamation and you're referring to something that's not there. Simple. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. Assonance. We've done this also in, I think, speech. We did assonance in speech. Most of the things in poetry you'll find common with speech. Okay. The part we did, we called speech. These are literary devices. You're seeing how I've taught you. I've just not told you that all these literary devices are used in poems. I've taught you these literary devices in the various speech types. You're getting in all the exploring, all the text types that we've explored so far, all these have already been taught to you. There's nothing new. Understand that, Shiraz. The reason why you are not being able to apply them is you're not remembering them. You're not memorizing them. So next week you better do all the word banks and be ready, okay? Otherwise, I think you're feeling a bit inadequately prepared. You aren't. You've already done all this, okay? I've just done it differently. Okay, so make sure you learn all these definitions. Okay, assonance is the repetition of vowels or sounds in one or more words fit together. Repetition of a particular sound. So the wah, wah, wh, the wind sound that we read about, that one. So here the louder alarm bells, brazen bells, what tale of terror, now their turbulency tells. So what sound is he trying to focus on? L's, L's. In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright. Right. Too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek, shriek out of tune. Speak, Ike, Ike. So when Poe talks about alarm bells, he uses sharp, high-pitched vowels to echo their sound. Notice the repetition of long E's and I's in the sounds, both of which sound like a bit of a scream. Okay. Note this down. Assonance is quite simple. It's a repetition of the sound. Very simple.
Okay.
What have I done? Where have I done? Who would do it? Okay. If I say something like that. So what, where, who? All three have the wow, wow, wow sound. So repetition of this assonance. Simple. And the sound is generally associated with vowels. All right. Next, blank verse. Blank verse is, I hate blank verse. Okay. Blank verse has no rhythm to it. But yes, blank verse refers to poetry without, yes, rhythm. especially if that poetry is written in iambic pentameter. So let's see. But woe is me, you are sick of late, so far from cheer and from your former state, that I distrust you, yet though I distrust, discomfort you, my lord, it nothing must. So many of Shakespeare's plays are written in blank verse, including much of Hamlet. Here
Like
the
it
dialogue
doesn't
is
make sense.
it has no rhythm. It's not a poem only. It's a story that is being read like a poem. That's the basic definition of blank verse. Conceptually, you can define blank verse as a story. It is written like a story, but it's read like a poem. That is the only thing. There's no rhythm. There is no words. There is no poetic devices may be there, but there's no flow. So that's why the device they've even the example they've given is not something today which we would classify as a poem. Hamlet, we classify it as a play,
Yeah.
right? We don't even classify it anymore as a poem. So blank verse was something during one period of time. It was considered a very big poetic thing, and yeah, but now 150 years later, in our time period, blank verse is popular, but it's lost its appeal, so as to speak. It's not a trend amongst us, okay, in our time. Okay, here the dialogue is without rhythms, which makes it sounds more realistic, but it still follows a strict meter, iambic pentameter. This lends it, sorry, a sense of grandiosity beyond if Shakespeare had tried to mimic natural speech and deliberate space of stress. Okay, he's used a pentameter. Okay, that let it be. That's not a big thing. Okay, have you written this down?
Yeah, I have written this down.
Okay, what is a consonance? Consonance is the repetition of a specific consonant sound in close proximity. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? Okay. Black repeatedly uses multiple sounds in the first stanza of his poem. One of the most prominent is R. Tiger, tiger, burning bright. R is used in every single word, which shows up in every line of the first stanza and almost every line of the poem as a whole. As Blake is writing about the tiger, he's musing on its fearsome nature and where it comes from, with the repeated R sound mimicking the tiger's growl. Okay. Write down consonants, write the definition. It's not something that much you have to notice, but it's something very easy to notice. So it'll help you in terms of writing something in the exam. If you see a alphabet repeated multiple times and the sound repeated multiple times, it's a consonant. You can write that down. The author uses consonants to emphasize on his uh, topic or something like that. Enjambment. We just read about enjambment in the book, right? What here? Where is enjambment? Yeah, we read about it here only, right? So what is enjambment? An enjambment is a continuation of a sentence beyond a line break, couplet, or a stanza without an expected pause. Okay. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a like a syrupy treat, like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? Hughes plays with multiple methods of ending lines in this poem, including enjambment. The first two lines of the second stanza and the second to last stanza are examples of enjambment. First two lines of the second stanza. Okay. Notice the way these lines feel in comparison to the others, especially the second example. Okay. The way it's written mimics the exhaustion of carrying a heavy load. As you can't pause or breath for breath the way that you do with lines ended with the punctuation. Okay, so enjambment, just write the definition down. This example is not something that's given pretty properly. The example that you saw here uh, is called, so this one. When a sentence carries on over at the end of the line, it is called an enjambment, which poets may use for artistic reasons. The example given here is the best one in this one. Okay, so write
Which
this down.
page is this? Page number 80, right?
Um, which one? From the book?
Yeah. The
Page 80.
definitions are
Page
given there.
81. Page 81 it's given.
81. Okay.
All right. Next is irony. Everyone knows what irony is. So irony has a few different meanings. The most common is the use of tone or exaggeration to convey a meaning opposite to what it's saying. A second form of irony is situation irony. So in which a situation or event contradicts expectations, usually in a humorous fashion. A third form of dramatic irony, where the audience of a play, movie, or other piece of art is aware of something that the characters are not. Sometimes you'll see a movie wherein they show you the secret of one character, and the next scene is like with another character who doesn't know the secret. Okay, but as the viewer. I'm sure you've seen a lot of those instances. So that is also situational irony. Okay. Basic irony, where what someone says doesn't match what they mean. So, yeah, I love dogs, she said dryly, holding the miniature poodle at arm's length as hives sprang up along her arms. What does it mean? She's lying. She's telling I love dogs while she's keeping the dog away from her. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's irony. Okay. Situational irony would include things like a police station getting robbed. Right. Police station got robbed. If they can't protect the station, only what they protect us. Right. So that's situational irony. Or a marriage counselor getting a divorce. We would expect police to be able to resist. Okay. One of the most famous examples of dramatic irony is Romeo and Juliet. Okay. They love each other, but they die. The audience knows that Juliet isn't dead when Romeo comes to find her in the tomb, but obviously can't stop Romeo from killing himself to be with her. Unlike other forms of irony, dramatic irony often isn't funny. It heightens tension and increase. Okay. To write on what irony is, just write uh, the first full paragraph. Write this paragraph.
I think, yeah, the English teacher in our school uses this word a lot.
Yes, irony is So if I tell you like it's like when I was young, all I wanted to do was earn a lot of money. Okay, so that I could do so many things. Okay, but now you're older, suppose, and you've earned that money, or you're earning that money. You say now the irony of the situation is that even though I'm earning the money, I don't have time to spend it on the activities I want to spend it on. So why am I earning the money?
Yeah.
Getting it? So when you were young, you wanted the money, okay, and so that you could do something with the money, right? But you've set your life in such a way that it's about earning the money, not about doing stuff with the money. So now, even though you have the money, you don't have time to do all the stuff you wanted to. So the irony of the situation, that's a situation irony. So suppose one athlete fails a drug test, and there's another athlete who like comments a lot on it, like we shouldn't be doing all that. There's that so many things he comments, and the next day that athlete takes a drug test and he also fails.
Yeah.
Okay, then again, irony of the situation. That's situational irony. So irony is one of the most commonly used devices by anybody, author, poet, whatever, in any form of literature. It is one of the most common used thing, and it is the only figure of speech that people use every day in their life all the time. That is why your teacher will often tell the word irony. Irony can be seen everywhere. Okay.
But this, what do you call it? Something literary devices, some other devices. Why do we use this word in English?
Why do we use literary devices?
Yeah.
Literary devices, basically, they are meant not for spoken word. It's meant for the written word. So we use these devices to emphasize on emotions. We use these devices to make a point. Like certain things, you and I can tell each other. If you tell me I did this, I'll be like, "Oh, you did that." Okay. So if I tell that, then you, from the tone of my voice only, you understood that I'm surprised. But if I write that in a text, okay, Oh, you did that. Okay. The person reading the text won't get the tone of surprise. So how do I transmit that tone? Through the use of literary devices. Getting it? So language, while interacting, we involve a lot of tone, and the way we speak, the way we are telling it, matters a lot when we are verbally speaking. When we are writing, we how do we express all of those things? Through literary devices.
Oh,
That is why we use all these devices. Simple. So the snow is falling. If I tell you that, uh, you'll be like, huh, so what's the big deal? The snow is falling. But maybe the author is trying to say the snow is falling on the grave of his parents. And he wants you to feel the depth of emotion. Okay. So through his voice, he can tell you, maybe, if he's speaking to you, it felt like my whole world was falling down. Just like the snow was falling, my world was falling all apart. When he tells you that, you'll get it. But if he writes this, will you understand his emotion?
yeah. No, I wouldn't really like
you
give.
you you wouldn't understand the depth of the emotion, right? So he needs to make you understand the depth. That's when he uses all these literary devices. Now, nowadays these literary devices are going to slowly go off, because these were of an era where written work was valued, was the most prominent work. Today we live in a world where we can all make videos, right?
Yeah, like you can use body language
Video.
instead.
So you can use words, body language, tone, everything you can use to communicate through videos, right? So these literary texts, literary things have now become very academic. People who study about them, people who are studying them in school, colleges, etc., they know about all this. The common public doesn't know. But there was a time when everybody in human who was speaking English knew of these devices, because that is what they used every day. Okay, while expressing themselves, everybody, like 150 years back, everyone in the globe was writing letters to each other, right?
Yeah,
Nobody was sending texts, nobody is calling up, nothing. So how do you express your emotions through in your letters? Through your use of literary devices. Okay. And today you don't nobody sends letters anymore, right? We send a text. And how do we express our emotions? We use emojis. So we've taken out literary device ka use and replaced that with emojis in the modern day.
yeah,
So we've taken out the complexity, made it simple. That's why only academic circle may you still read about the literary devices. Okay. Metaphor, you know what a metaphor is when one thing is compared to another. So an emotional roller coaster is an example of a metaphor. What is an emotional roller coaster? Just as you ride a roller coaster, it goes up, goes down. Okay, there's ups and downs. Similarly, your emotions have ups and downs. Simple, right? So emotional roller coaster is a common example of a metaphor. It has become a cliche. Experience multiple emotions in a short period of time can feel a lot like, right, okay. So write this definition metaphor.